My name is Paul Taylor, and I'm the Principal Designate for the college that we're here today to talk about. What I'd like to do is just briefly spend a couple of minutes just to introduce my team. We are very much a team. We are a team that thinks outside the box. We're a team that are visionary in the way in which we are proposing to work with you and your corporate management team to take what is ultimately a failing college very much forward and into a new profitable era. To my immediate right is Darren. Darren is Head of Faculty. To my near right is Liz. She's Head of Finance. To my left is Vicky. She's Head of Student Services. And to my far left is Neil, who's the Head of Strategy and Business Development. This is a team that delivers. This is a team that has a proven track record, and what you'll hear this afternoon are some examples of how we've taken what are failing faculties or areas that haven't really grown and, in specifics, and taken them forward with new innovative ideas and the way in which we approach ultimately delivery to our audience and our students, our potential students of the future. We share a passion for education. We believe that we can develop an innovative curriculum, both for our students and for staff, but always ensuring that we have financially robust systems and procedures in place to ensure that we remain financially secure. We would accept that in the short term, with working with a financially negative balance, ultimately a deficit, that there would be need for pain. But we would try and do that in a constructive way, but also ensure that we can show that we're the right people to take it forward. We're a team, ultimately, that you can trust.
How do you deal with pain in a constructive way?
I think ultimately, change is the pain. And I think getting people and getting staff and students and ultimately your community to buy into what you're trying to do is the crucial thing. You have to get into the hearts and minds of those people and get them to buy into what it is that you're actually about. Okay. So I think, on that note, as a principal, my example that I'd like to give you was for an area that was really struggling to recruit new students. Traditional methods weren't working. The usual stick a poster up and hopefully students would come through the door with their parents to an open day. It just wasn't working. It was an area that 2 or 3 years on the bounce, unfortunately, weren't growing. So we looked to develop a new community recruitment strategy which worked with key relationships throughout the area. Business, obviously the academic sector of secondary schools, but also the community that was, on a wider area. We developed key relationships and ultimately trust to ensure that parents and potential students could come to a college which was going to exceed their expectations when it came to what they wanted to do with the next part of their life. It wasn't just about coming in and doing the minimum, it was always about going over and above what we were doing. We were able to take what was an area that wasn't growing, and we trebled the number of students that were coming into that area in 1 year. The really exciting thing about that was that it was a sustainable program. It wasn't just a one-hit wonder. It was something that would roll out year after year after year, constantly ensuring that we were looking at the risks that were potentially out there for us, but also ensuring that we were staying one step ahead of the game when it came to our competition. So that's an example of, as the leader of this team, of the type of person that you'll be dealing with. I'm going to now hand you over to Vicky. Vicky is our Head of Student Services, and she's going to detail that area.
I'm really excited to be here this afternoon to talk about student services and how we're going to support our learners as a team. A bit about my background: I've worked in FE, work-based learning, and now offender learning, so I've got a variety of experiences to bring to the team to complement my colleagues' abilities. One of the things I really love is a good spreadsheet. You can't beat a system for tracking learners' progress, all colour-coded so that you've got traffic lighting which will immediately bring to attention any learners that are at risk of failing. Obviously, from a financial perspective, we need to ensure we maximise our funding ability by getting those achievements in. But how does that fit with our ambition for our learners and our stretch and challenge for them? I wanted to leave just briefly about Charlie. He was a 35-year-old offender who was a traveller, never been to school, never learnt to read and write. We started working with him on a one-to-one basis, gained his confidence and trust, and got him into education, where he learnt to read and write. He was then able to write his first letter home to his family ever. Amazing achievement for him. He then carried on with us. He learnt to use some IT. He went to home cooking. He went home on a home visit and came back very proud to tell us that he'd done some cooking with his family. So he was expanding his cultural boundaries and expectations, which was a fantastic achievement for this young man. My ambition and passion for education and the benchmarking that I'd like to apply to our college is I want to have a place where I would want my own child to go and gain their education. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. Over to Dan, who's Head of Faculty.
Good afternoon. I will be taking on your role of Head of Faculty. Okay, I've recently been promoted within position from an Assistant Curriculum Manager to that of Curriculum Manager. This has obviously made me look at my ways of working and making me change the way that I work. I took on a very successful department as well. Okay, so with that comes the challenges of actually maintaining that success. In response to that, at the end of the last academic year, to give you some sort of idea, we were put forward in front of the college board. We had to present our SAR, and pleased to say we actually got a grade 1 in all areas. This takes hard work and determination to do that, and that's what I'll then stress upon the new team. Increased marketing. We've had to look at our marketing strategy because I'm the only provider of the women's estate in the South West region. When anything is mentioned in this college about prisoners and female prisoners, I know it's my head that's actually there. So we've got to ensure that everything that comes from Eastwood Park is actually positive. Okay? I can't afford not to have anything positive. And a part of that role is we're now in the process of actually relaunching the college to make it and give it that ethos in the prison that it is a college. And we're doing this with part of the Prison Education Trust. And finally, the delivery. Okay? I know it's all about facts and figures, so this is what I deliver. At the moment, as a team, we deliver 120% against our business profile. So if I say I'm going to do it, we're going to do it. And then finally, at the moment, we're at 67% against that profile. So again, we're the highest performing prison in the South West region. So if it's there on the books, we will deliver.
Thank you. Fantastic, Darren. Well done. Over to Liz, who's our Head of Finance.
Hello, I'm Liz. I'm looking at the finance role this afternoon. As a team, we're very mindful about the bottom line in terms of looking at the college finances. We're very, very mindful of the risk involved in terms of the achievement of the students, the course profitability, and also the quality of the course offering. So we're very mindful of the need to get all these elements right. I'm very conscious that there are indirect costs of delivering the curriculum. An example of this is that there are things like PPE for staff that need to be taken into consideration for health and safety aspects of delivering the course. An example of this was to try and deliver this to staff in terms of providing something that was fit for purpose and also suitable in terms of quality, but also finding something that was also price conscious in terms of meeting budget requirements. And by using different suppliers and in terms of driving the price costs down, we were able to do substantial savings on some quotations that were received. I feel that my attention to detail and my attention to the bottom line are crucial in terms of making sure that the college finances are kept on track.
Thank you.
I also, my philosophy is, if it was my money, would I spend it?
Okay. Thank you very much.
And by no means least, Neil, who's the Head of Strategy.
Good afternoon. Why me for Head of Strategy and Business Development? We have a two-folded income that we have to oversee here, 50% from OLAS and 50% from FE. My experience will come from one side, and that is the situation I'd like to explain to you that I was given when I was put in place at Dorchester, which was, according to the Witney Council, reported to the government, a failing education department. What I did when I went there was to look. I think the response was to actually go in and dig deep and have a very, very good look at the provision across the board. The results were that the provision had been set up with 2 longer courses for the average stay in a BCAT local, but men were not signing on to courses because increasingly they had failed to complete the course and therefore the accreditation was down and certification was not actually coming forth. Therefore, we reviewed the whole situation and the result was we changed the course structure, we changed the awarding body, we, with my colleagues at the time, redid the business plan. I think that that element can be drifted across to this particular college that we have now. We need to go in and look at it hard and fast, do a position statement and learn from that and produce a quality improvement plan that is beneficial to both the college, finance, the students and the wider community.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. Okay, so in summary, just before questions, we've got a faculty that over-delivers. We have a financial area that ensures that we return to profit. We're not running in deficit. This college will return to profit as a result of the team that we see in front of you. We have a student-focused, student-centred attitude to the way in which we promote ourselves, and ultimately it's the person that we deliver and leaves us, which is hugely indicative of how we work. And we have an innovative, think out of the box, visionary attitude towards the way in which we're going to grow. We'd like to ask you if you have any questions, but we do look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. A couple of questions. What's more important to you, quality or finances?
I think both have to run hand in glove. I don't believe you can run one without the other. I think ultimately we have to ensure that we are running a business first and foremost, and that's exactly what it is. It's a business. But at the same time, I believe that you can run a high-quality business that makes sure that the numbers add up.
You described a strategy earlier in terms of engaging, but that's only going to have 50% benefit, isn't it? Because how are you going to use that strategy for OLAS?
We're certainly not going to encourage people to go out and offend so that they can make the most of our programmes. No, certainly amongst this team you have 3 members of this team who have all got hands-on experience of working within the existing organisation.
Okay. Last Friday, all colleges in the UK were cut by up to 32% for their adult budget and up to 18% for OLAS, right across the country. You're already in deficit. How are you going to cope with that?
It's a challenge, there's no doubt about that. But I believe that we've got strategies in place to, first and foremost, as Neil clearly identified, to look at exactly where we are and where those losses are being made.
Could you just tell me what your process is then?
Process for...
You wake up last Friday morning, you get a letter off the SFA, you're 2 million down on your adult budget, you're £500,000 down on your OLAS budget, so you're 2.5 million down. You're already in a deficit of 3 million, so you're effectively 5.5 million down. How do you lot work together to sort this?
I think we're doing exactly what you say, is that we work together. It's not a decision that's made in...
Now, what would the process be? You just tell me what would happen then in your team.
I think that as business development, it would have to be that each department would have to come forward with a very, very honest report of their standing, where they are. And we would have to go as a senior management team, we would have to actually group and look at where there is waste, where there can be cuts, and where things could be melded together to actually not disadvantage a student, but actually make the operation run more efficiently at a lower cost.
There could be some severe changes to the curriculum. Are we running courses that are not profitable? They're nice to have type courses, and actually let's make sure we're running the courses that we need to run, so they are effective and it is getting our learners where they need to be.
So what happens then when your Director of Strategy states that you're going to make significant change and your Director of Finance says you can't afford to do that? How does your team interact? I don't quite follow. You've got your Director of Strategy implementing significant change. The Director of Finance says you can't afford to do that. What do you do, Principal?
I think primarily, before you even get to that point, those discussions are had about what you can afford to do. I think one of the areas that we would certainly look at were not just existing areas, but also potential. Neil mentioned, obviously, certain areas, and there are funding bodies out there, the LEP, and certain curricular areas, obviously, that are higher funded. We would look at maybe applying the Boston College Group method, about looking about the way in which we, what we provide and how we provide that. And as Neil rightly said, there probably is an awful lot of money potentially being wasted on courses that are nice to do's and so on and so forth. We have to be brutally honest and have a real appraisal of exactly where we are now. It's not going to be nice. You're sitting in a deficit position. It's not a case of sitting back and trying to please people. That's not what it's about. It's about returning a business to profit and ultimately ensuring that it has a growth plan over a relatively short period of time in order to be able to address that and ultimately then move forward into profit.
Just one last point from me then, if I may ask. You've got quite a bit of militancy in this college as taking over from the trade unions. What are you going to do with them?
I think the first thing I try and do is develop a relationship with them. I think maybe relationships have broken down and that's the reason why you've got that element of anarchy that maybe you're referring to. I'd like to try and find out exactly what the problems are and where they are, and ultimately I believe that by working with people you get a lot more achieved. There's no point in trying to take them on head to head because I think ultimately that anarchy and militancy would escalate, shall we say. So I think I'd look to work in partnership with them to try and resolve that.
Good, thank you very much.
Situation.